My name is Tony Gonzalez. The media is made in metal, Spain. Okay. And today we are going to talk to Tom Angelripper, the bass player and singer in Sodom. How are you, Tom?
I am very fine. Very good, yes.
Perfect.
I have a lot of, it's all the time when we have a new album out, there is a lot of promotion activity, And today I get the first copy of the box set, from a new album.
Wow.
I get this always for the band, just for the first copies, and after all the work, it's always a happy day, when you hold the finished product in your hand,
This is going to be my first question. What can we find in this special edition of the Arsonist?
Oh, there is a lot of stuff. There is the double vinyl. There was also a live EP with some live tracks we recorded in 2023, I think. And there was a poster in it, and there was a CD in it, and there was everything you wanted. And there was also a tape.
Good.
And picture posters and all the stuff, It's for the collectors, and I know that a lot of people don't want to pay the price because I think that is 70 euros, something like this, But if you don't want to spend the money, you can buy the regular double vinyl or CD, whatever, But for the collector's scene, I think the box set is really sold out very fast.
We are here to speak mostly about the Arsonist. And then I would like to know, how did the idea for this new album come about and how was it developed?
I think after the latest release about Genesis 19, and we start writing new songs, I think we were very busy with touring after the pandemic was over, we are permanently touring, but when we find time, we always start writing songs, There is no special time period when we start writing songs. We always came up with ideas, I always started writing lyrics, some ideas, And so we were very busy. And it's 5 years ago after Genesis 19. But we released a 40 years sampler. We released in 1982, the EP, So we were always busy, But songwriting is all the time, And when the guitarist came up with an idea, we will meet in a rehearsal room and putting everything together, arranging a song. Because I'm the singer in a band. I have to put my lyrics on it, It's always the same. And then we waiting for an option from a record company. So when the record company said, okay, the time is right, we can release a new album. And then we check the time schedule, when we recorded it, and when we bring it out.
Taking account the changes that are happening in this world, is there any lyrical changes on this album?
I think there was a lot of war themes in this in the new album, because the war it's raging over all the time, And I really know it's when I look at TV news or reading my newspaper articles, I don't know what to say, It's a very bad situation we are living in, And some people ask me, who is the arsonist? Is it President Putin? Is it President Trump? Whatever? No, it is not, I think you see on the cover there is a very peaceful situation, and the Knarrenheinz is above destroying the whole world, He gonna set the world on fire, and that is something I'm gonna write down, When I start writing lyrics about war, I don't want to describe. I just want to describe how bad a war is or could be, I don't want to talk about the big war or the big politics behind, I'm interested in the soldier who is fighting in a war, or fighting in the jungles. There is a song called Tapeforia. It's from World War I, where soldiers were scared of getting buried alive by grenades exploding next to them, and they get buried by all the shit coming down, and all the stuff I'm really interested in. There were also lyrics about my ex-drummer Chris Witchhunter and LG Ward, which was my famous bass player and singer in these times,
It's real that you decided to record this album with more analogical sound?
Yes, it's true. Because a friend of Tony, my drummer, he is running a studio with a tape machine and an analog mixing desk. And I asked him, do you still recording bands with a tape machine? Because the machine is from the 70s. you know, very old one. They say, yes, he's still recording. The machine is still working. And we came up with the idea of just recording the drums with the tape machine because he told me the sound is better, you know. And if you mix the drums on an analog decks, you get a wide open production, you get a better drum sound like in the 80s, you know. I think nowadays people using drum samples, digital recording, and using snare samples or trigger signals on a bass drums or any other plugins, you know. I want to have a drum sound like it is, and I want to have a natural drum sound, you know. The problem is when a recording on tape and you are a drummer, you just have one chance. If there is any mistake in the end, you know, or issue, the tape is running. You have to restart from the beginning, you know. That is a big difference, you know. But Tony is a great drummer. He recorded some tracks with just one take, you know. It was gone. That is really something special, you know. And I want to have the whole production more bigger, you know, more like 80s style, you know. And the problem is that people listen to music on a smartphone, you know. So we have to compress the whole file when we master the album, you know. That's a shame, you know. When I listen to music, I want to hear my vinyls or my hi-fi stereo equipment, you know. I want to enjoy music, not just consume music. But it's the way it is nowadays. You know?
Let me confess you, now that you tell me this, that I imagine that you have changed the drummer because the drums in this recording sounds different.
I don't know. It's not a modern drum sound like it's usual. You know, we want to go back to the 80s. You know, I like old Venom, Slayer stuff. You know, with the big drum sound. You know, I want to have a drum sound like it sounds on a rehearsal room or on a live concert. You know, without any effects putting in it, just mixing, but no samples and all this stuff. You know, and that is very important. You know, when you go to a studio, that was a real studio like in the 80s. You know, you pay a lot of money for it. It's very expensive, but I want to spend the money because I want to have a different sound, you know. I don't want to have the same sound like all the other bands releasing something, you know. Sodom is always something special, and we always try to create an own sound with the typical Sodom trademarks in it, you know.
The rest of the band contribute in the songwriting process?
Oh yes, yes. Because it's something new with the new album because the drummer is also a good guitarist, what a lot of people don't know, and he came up with a lot of good ideas for songs. You know, it's like Trigger Discipline, which is single which we released. We released Witch Hunter, released Tepiphobia. All the three songs are coming from Tony. You know, and that makes the whole thing so colorful. You know, because Frank is a typical thrashy Agent Orange style riffing guitarist. You know. York is coming from more epic metal. He's interested in new wave from British metal bands, you know, old school bands. And Tony is coming from the black and death metal scene. So he had different ways to go when he started writing songs, you know. But I never mind, you know, if it's a good song, you know, because Sodom, we can do what we want, you know. Sodom is just a metal band. Sodom is not a typical thrash metal band, in my opinion. So we can put everything together. Maybe there is some death or black metal influence in it, you know. As long as we keep the typical Sodom trademarks, and that's my vocals, maybe the bass playing, the bass sound, you know, it doesn't matter, you know. So we have three songwriters, and after they came up with the ideas, we start arranging the song in a rehearsal with a jam session, you know.
There is a song dedicated to Witch Hunter, to Chris Witch Hunter, a song that paid tribute to your late drummer. What does it mean to you to include this track on this recording?
I don't know. I came up with the idea because Witch Hunter is present all the time. You know, he was a former of the band together with me. He was my best friend in the beginning. And our drummer Tony is very interested in Witch Hunter's drumming because he liked the chaotic Witch Hunter style, you know, and combined it with a more accurate drumming nowadays, you know. I don't know. I came up with the idea and giving a tribute to Witch Hunter, you know. But I don't want to, you know, I want to tell you, he was not a big hero, you know. I don't want to tell the people he was the best drummer. He had a big impact to the drummer scene, to the metal scene in the 80s, you know, and then it's also in the 90s, you know. And his life went so horrible in the end, you know. and tragic because of alcohol abuse. And the same with L.G. Ward, you know. He was my inspiration making music and bass playing and vocal singing and all this stuff. And this alcohol and drug abuse destroys everything, you know. And that's a shame. I lost so many friends a couple of years because of alcohol and drugs, you know. And these guys represent the situation, you know. If you drink so much, if you be a rock star and you take drugs, whatever, you know. So don't take anything, you know. Yeah, when we play live, you know, we play 50% of songs from the era with Witch Hunter, you know. His guys always present all the time.
Don't take anything, even a single beer. No, a beer, yes, but
No, that is not a problem.
no, not pills, not injection. No. I agree with you. I agree.
But Witch Hunter was a really alcoholic. He was drunk every day, take a shit of everything, you know. I don't want to do it. If you're an alcoholic, you know, that's a problem, you know. And these guys died too early, in my opinion.
I remember Tom in the mid-80s, in the first, I was living in Cuba, and from time to time we get a Metal Hammer Germany, and I remember the first lineup from Sodom, Tom Angelripper, Witch Hunter, these first images, and yes, I have a good memory from him, from Witch Hunter. So I'm glad with the song. I know that what you say is totally true, and that you pay a tribute to an old member of the band is something really, really important in the story of the band and the followers. And my question is there another musician in Sodom that means an important person in terms of friendship or collaborated effort to keep the band strong and alive?
No, I changed a lot of lineups, you know, I changed a lot of guitarists, you know. Frank Blackfire is somebody who created Agent Orange, Persecution Mania, these two albums that gave Sodom the chance to get more international scene, you know, get more touring, get more shows, you know, whatever, you know. I think the beginning, the first lineup was the drummer before Witch Hunter. He was called Bloody Monster. But I don't know if he's still alive, you know. But I think the first really lineup was with Aggressor on the guitars, you know. And Aggressor was also the founder of the band, you know. And I don't have any contact to him anymore, you know. It's a shame. I don't know where he lives, you know. I don't know if he's still alive, you know, whatever, you know. I think this lineup, the first lineup was Witch Hunter, me, and Aggressor. This was something we created, completely new style, you know. You know, we were influenced by Venom and Motorhead, and especially Venom. The first Venom record was something that changed the music scene, that changed our life, you know. And then we came up with the idea of forming an own band, playing faster than Metallica and harder than Venom. That was our slogan, what we used in the beginning, you know. So I think Aggressor is one of the most important persons with a completely Sodom history.
The Arsonist has an interesting cover, and for example, with difference with, for example, Agent Orange and those songs that were related to the Vietnam War. When I saw the cover of the Arsonist, I imagined the Ukrainian war. Tell me, how did the idea for the cover come about, and what does it symbolize?
That's a mixture. I think that is I think it's also Vietnam, you know, the cover scene, you know, because you see the helicopters and everything around, you know. I like that. You know, I tell you, this is one of the best covers ever, in my opinion, you know. And I work with Bilak, and he's a cover artist from Poland, you know. And I met this guy a couple of years ago. We played in Sweden. In Sweden, he had a festival show, and I met this guy, and I talked to him, you know. I did the Ghost covers, and he told me I'm a big Sodom fan. That would be an honor for you to make a new artwork cover, you know. But I don't like the Ghost covers. These are completely different to what I think about a Sodom cover, you know. And he told me he can do it the same way like Andreas Marshall, who did the covers in the 80s, 90s, and also Joe Petagno, who did the last two covers for Sodom, you know, with airbrush and all the stuff, you know. And then I talked to him, you know, and then we get it, and he came up with scribbles, you know, and he started painting, you know. I think the Knarrenheit is always in the middle of the center of the cover artwork, you know. And in the end, I know I get a PDF file, you know, with the finished product, with the finished cover artwork, and I was impressed, you know. And some people told me, "Oh, this is not pen painted. This is by KI, you know, with AI generated, you know." Which is it's a shame, you know. If you are a cover artist, we don't use this shit, you know. I know a lot of bands use this for making covers or making music or writing lyrics, whatever, you know. We don't. Everything is single handmade, you know. So I like this cover, and it could be also Ukraine war, you know. It could be everything. You know, I don't want to tell it's Ukraine. You see some from Vietnam War. You see, okay, the Ukraine war. You know, if you see videos from Ukraine war, they're working with drones coming down, and we don't have it on the cover, you know.
Yes, I
But
imagine.
I don't want the people who is a good guy, who's a bad guy. I don't, you know what I want to tell with the cover, you know. We want to live in a peaceful world, you know. And I hope they're going to find a diplomatic way to get out of, you know. That is my dream, because I'm not scared about myself. I'm scared about the next generation growing up in this shitty world, you know. The message is really simple. It's a hardcover, but the message is stop it. You know?
Yes. So I imagine that in the vinyl, the cover looks really awesome. But for example, is there a song in this recording, apart from the introduction, the Arsonist, that gives the idea of the album or the name of the CD?
I don't. I had a lot of album titles. You know, my first opinion was Shadowland. You know, call it. And my guitarist said, "Oh, there is another band. They have an album out with the same title. You know, you cannot find something brand new. You know." The second idea was Battle of Harvest Moon. And I talked to B, like he's also very artist. He has good ideas for songs. I came up with a couple of song ideas, title ideas for the album, and said the Arsonist fits perfect. The Arsonist could be everybody. The Arsonist could be everything, you know. And your mascot, the Knarrenheit, is in the center of the cover. And he is the Arsonist. You know? And if you listen to the intro, you know, that is something from the Vietnam War, because Battle of Harvest Moon was a battle that happened during the Vietnam War, you know. And the Arsonist is something, if you listen to the intro, you know, you see that the Marines going through the jungle, shooting everything down. Also the civilian people crying, you know, the girls crying, the kiddies crying, you know, that is this intro, you know. So we combine everything together to get a plakativ, we say in Germany, a good album title, you know.
Battle of the Harvest Moon is an extraordinary song, and when I listened to for the first time, another song comes to my memory, that is Angel of Death from Slayer, the opening track.
Yeah, some people say there was a little bit Slayer riff in it. I don't know. I don't want to. No, if my guitarist came up with the idea that sounds like Slayer, I would say no. You know, there are some riffs sounding like Slayer. You cannot find something brand new you never heard before, you know. That is really, but I always try to keep it away, you know. All the influence, all the other bands, you know, when we start writing songs, you know. I want to do my own music. I don't want to take any Metallica, Slayer riffs, whatever, you know. That is not my way. But sometimes it happened, you know, without thinking about it, you know.
But if the people listen Battle of Harvest Moon, the comparison more than a complaint is a compliment, because this song is really extraordinarily good.
Yeah, it's very easy, you know. It's you know, it's always important for Sodom that we have a good chorus line, you know, that we try to do in every song, and that is something what we did since the beginning, you know. Then if you do a good refrain, a good chorus line, the Battle of Harvest Moon, that is something you listen once or twice and never forget it, you know. And that is very important, you know, that we always have good chorus lines, you know. It doesn't matter, is it metal riff, is it thrash metal or whatever, no, I never mind, you know. It's a good riff, we have a good chorus lines, it's okay, you know.
and the first single was Trigger Discipline. What's your idea or idea of the company recording?
It's a story about the sniper from World War II. It's a true story, you know. And this guy, he killed hundreds of people by shooting with a rifle, you know, killing people from a far distance, you know. And after the war is over, he survived the war. He continues killing people with a rifle in a civilian life, you know. And in the end, you think, I kill innocent people. You know, the war is over. You know, I'm a monster. I'm gonna kill my mother because she gave birth to me. And after that, I'm gonna kill myself, you know. And that is a true story. And that is very interesting, you know. And that is I'm very interested in the small stories of single persons, you know. And yeah, that's trigger discipline. Though the trigger discipline he don't have. He's shooting everything coming in his sight, you know.
Yes. Was a Russian sniper or from another country?
There was a German sniper, yeah.
Interesting. I didn't know the story.
Yeah, I don't want to write names into the lyrics, you know.
No.
There were a lot of famous from Norway was a very famous sniper. There was also a Russian. They have good snipers, you know. Yeah, and that's horrible, you know. That's a tragic of war, you know. You know. Kill or be killed, you know. That's the thing in the war, you know.
Yes. So another song is Taphophobia. I remember reading the Edgar Allan Poe short story when I was a young teenager. It's the premature burial, and I think that maybe it was your inspiration, but maybe not. What inspired you to write this song?
What I told before, that something about World War I, you know.
Oh.
You're in a trench in the front line, you know, and a grenades exploding next to you, and all the debris coming down, and you get buried alive by all the dust, debris, you know, all the shit coming down, and that what a lot of soldiers were afraid of, you know. If you're fighting in a war, you know, if you get shot, you are dead, you know. If you get hit at the right place, you know, you are dead, you know. But if you get buried alive, it needs hours, you know, to die, you know. And that is something what really happened. I was looking for words nobody used before, you know. And I saw the word taphophobia in a World War I article, you know, the documentation of it, what it means, you know. And then I started researching about the song, the title, and that tells you that people are scared, get buried alive, you know. It's not the same like get buried alive in a casket, you know.
Yes.
Which happened. You get buried, you are lying in a casket, and then you wake up, you know.
No, it's like the woman in Kill Bill, the movie.
Yes.
I don't know if you have seen the movie. Yes. So I didn't know the word, but I found it, and in Spanish it's the same, taphophobia. Yes, it doesn't have.
I think it's coming from Greece, you know. Taphophobia, would say in Germany, you know. It's coming original from Greece. I heard about it. You know, but I like the song title, and I also like the song, you know. I don't want to write any fantasy lyrics like other bands do, you know, with all the evil stuff, you know. I'd rather write small stories, and every song, every lyric I wrote is a small story, you know. And that is very important for me. The lyrics are important as well as the music, you know. Everything comes together, the music, the lyrics, the cover artwork, and everything, you know.
Yes. Even with Sodom have changed during along the times, there are now, I think, that Sodom keep the essence because it's your voice, the sound, the lyrics. But for this reason, I would like to ask you, in general terms, what do you consider the most representative of Sodom's career today in terms of albums? What albums do you consider the most representative?
You know, as long as I'm the singer in the band, I think that the vocals are always the biggest trademarks in the band, you know. That's the reason why I like Tank or Venom, you know, because of the vocals, you know. That keeps Sodom, you know. But I don't. There was a lot of trademarks and a lot of very important albums. I think that was Agent Orange, in my opinion, you know. for me personally, because Agent Orange was so successful in these times. And Agent Orange gave me the opportunity to live from the music, you know. And that is a dream come true for every musician, if you can make your live just from the music, you know. And that is what happened in '89, you know. The record company told me, you know, they mentioned you have this album was successful, you can stop working in the coal mine, you know, and spend more time with the music, spend more time with the band and everything, you know. And that is the most important album in my career, you know. But from that time, you have to work really hard, you know. When you try to make a live from the music, you have to work every day, you know. Some younger bands ask me what to do to get bigger band to make your live from the music, you know. So I always say, don't stop your jobs or stop your studio or school, whatever, you know, because the times changed, you know. In the '80s, there was just 5 bands who did this music, you know.
Agent Orange caused a great impact in the metal fans there in Cuba. And yes, I consider that this and Persecution Mania is another recording that to me is really good. And since 2018, if I have good memory, you are working as 4 members in the band. In general terms, how do you think the lineup changes have affected the band music?
All the time, you know. If you changed a guitarist, for example, the music changed a little bit, you know. It's still Sodom, all right? I remember when Agent Orange was so successful, the record company, they asked me to get make another album in Agent Orange style, you know. It's impossible because we get a new guitarist. That was Michael Hoffman in the '90s. And he had a completely different style playing guitars. So Better Off Dead is completely different to Agent Orange, you know. And Tapping the Vein is completely different to Better Off Dead because we get another guitarist, which was Andy Brinks, you know. So if you changed musicians, you also changed the music, you know. But it's still Sodom, you know. It doesn't matter who play the drums or play the guitars, you know. But Better Off Dead is completely different to Agent Orange or Persecution Mania, you know. And when I came up with the idea for a second guitarist, you know, I think that was I want to give it a try because I had Jorgen, I had Frank Black. I asked Frank Blackford to join the band again because when we're gonna do a live show, you know, we have a better live sound with 2 guitarists. You know, you got more stereo effects. You know, I know that people like more the power trio bands, like myself in the beginning. If you listen to old Venom, old Motorhead, old Tank, Raven, you know, these bands were power trio bands, you know, which I really like, you know. And I remember when Motorhead got a second guitarist in the band, that was completely different, in my opinion, you know. They released still good albums like Orgasmatome, whatever, you know. But I like more the old school with the 3-piece band members, you know. It's always it's bad situation but we always talk to the fans about it, you know. What you think about playing with 2 guitarists, or is it better playing with 1 guitarist, you know? Yes, but if you're gonna play live, you know, you have 2 guitarists in the band, you get a better sound, definitely.
Tom, and having spent decades in metal, what keeps you motivated after all these years?
It's the biggest, you know, the music and the band is the biggest part of my life, you know. But I think you heard just some rumors about that I want to stop doing the music, you know. That's true. I now I have 2 upcoming shows in this month and beginning of July. That was a Copenhagen and Rock Hearts Festival, and then for me it's gone, you know. I want to slow down the things a little bit. I want to spend more time with family, good old friends, doing some other things like hunting and all that stuff, you know. And but after all the years, you know, I'm looking back, you know, I was really successful, but you know, it's a result of hardworking men, you know. And I'm still healthy to do it. And I'm still creative, writing songs, writing lyrics and everything, you know. But now for me, the time has come to get a break, you know, from everything. but I am still in the music scene because I just want to do my home office. At the time we are working on a Get What You Deserve re-release, and the record company BMG, they want to release all the albums, the complete back catalog, And the next what we do is a Get What You Deserve. Then we talk about the Maroon live album. Then we go back to Obsessed by Cruelty, Persecution Mania, maybe, So I'm busy anyway, But I don't want to waste my time on being on tour so long,
Perfect.
It's not just 1 or 2 hours on a stage, Sometimes you are traveling 8 days or maybe more just for one show. And when you play in South America, whatever, And I don't want to waste time anymore on being in hotels, or sitting in airplanes waiting on airports, I know there is the only chance to go to America, But now the time is right for making a break,
And tell me, those re-editions are going to do with anything special? Extra tracks, remaster or something?
You talk about the back catalogs or re-releases
Yes, the
for the
re-
new album.
yes.
Yes, I don't want to tell you so much, I think the Tapping the Vein we released was very successful because we had some live material in it, and we did a remix, which is interesting to do, Yes, also we tried to, we have the time period from 93, 94 when Atomic Steiff joined the band, So now we are collecting material. We have also some live recordings, which is not professional recordings, but it doesn't matter. We have, I think we have one show that was the first show with Atomic Steiff. We played an open air festival, a small one, We get some material, I know it's not an official live album, but we want to give something special, If we do a re-release, we always try to find some unreleased tracks or making remixes, doing always something special, And the Tapping the Vein was really successful. And it's the same with Obsessed by Cruelty, Obsessed by Cruelty, there are 2 different recordings.
Mhm.
And it's very confusing for the fans. And I want to tell the whole story about Obsessed by Cruelty. And my dream is a box set with the 2 recordings in it, and explain the people why we recorded twice with different track listing and all the stuff, So when we're gonna do a re-release, we always put a lot of love and a lot of work in it,
And Tom, do you still live in Gelsenkirchen?
Yes, I'm
Yes.
still live, yeah.
Let me
Yeah.
tell you a story to finish the interview. In the 80s, I met Reinhard Golan, the drummer from Matt Busher, another band from Gelsenkirchen.
I know this band, yeah.
Yes. He was in La Habana, Cuba, and he gave me the first Sodom t-shirt that I use.
The first one.
The first one.
I don't know. The first official one was In the Sound of Evil,
I don't remember that. It was a man with a cover in blue.
Yes.
Yes. So he gave me this t-shirt, and later he sent me from Gelsenkirchen an sport trouser with the logo of Sodom in the leg. Is there in Cuba an extraordinary band called Combat Noise that is influenced by Sodom? All the lyrics are related to wars and things like that. And I think that maybe if you check it, you will like it.
But it's the shirt, it was In the Sound of Evil with a man with a red and blue and green, There were a lot of copies around, I don't know. Some people say that it's original, you can copy everything nowadays, But if you get an original In the Sign of Evil Sodom shirt, which was the first official one, it's worth a lot of money,
Yes. So,
if it's original, yeah.
Yeah, it was in the 80s. I wear the t-shirt almost at every concert. So the t-shirt goes really broken, a disaster in the end. But it's to tell you that you must know, even when never you have been in Cuba, that Sodom is a band that a lot of Cuban fans follows.
Thank you for your support. Especially the Spanish fans are always really crazy,
Yes.
And I don't know when I return, but we have always a great time in Spain, and that is what I'm gonna do when I'm coming back, making a small tour in Europe, especially Spain and also Italy. We're fans worldwide, you know.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for your support all over the decades, you know. What is a band without their fans? Nothing, you know. So that's very important to say, you know. You pay the price, you pay the tickets, you're gonna buy the albums, you keep the band alive. Thank you so much for it.
Yes. Thank you for this conversation, Tom. I hope to see you here in Spain.
Thank you, and take care, my friend, all right?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.